Hey guys, welcome. We have painters here today, so I am doing this from Mom's kitchen so as not to interfere with the painters who are in the other room that I normally do this in. So welcome everybody. Get my chapstick on. Sasha's choking in the background. Anyway, hello all. Oh my God, just another busy day dealing with estates. Woo! All right, let me get what TikTok. I'm already spacing out here. TikTok, where are you? Hold on. I'm, like I said, a little bit discombobulated because I'm trying to do this from the kitchen today. And I'm not using my phone camera because that was just too difficult. So we're doing this instead. Come on, you. Okay. Now I'm trying to get my iPad to recognize my thumb. Thank you. All right, here we go. This is funny. I'm used to having you guys here and my iPad on the right, but now I'm doing my iPad on the left. So just to make things a little confusing, which of course means the light, they'll survive if the light's different. All right, give me a second, like I said, to get TikTok rolling. All right, hang on. I got to change the subject here too. Hey, Marion, what do we got here? Election 2024 and Ukraine update, if I can write all of that. Ooh, I was able to write all of that. Election and Ukraine update. That's good. All right. So I was literally talking to like an auction house until the show. I'm in Mom's kitchen today because we have painters in the other rooms. But I was literally talking to an auction house right until 5 o'clock. So I was like, hang on, guys. Just pulling this up. Dolphin's cute. Quick second. Oh, good. The dog is. I took the dog out, so hopefully she's going to behave. Because that can be an issue. All right. Hopefully she won't have to go out. All right. TikTok. I'm going live on TikTok. There we go. All right. All right. And the lighting, we'll deal with the lighting. All right. There's TikTok. It'll be a little different today across the board. Everything's different today, too, because I've gotten my notes on my computer because the printer is in the room being painted. So I couldn't print my notes. I'm like, All right. But we're fine. I will survive here. All right. I got my notes. My notes on the computer. I never do it this way, though. Oh, hello, TikTokers. I like the doors. I'm not too sure. I baked the knobs. You're not too sure you like the knobs, you mean? Now, the cabinets are interesting because the cabinets, hey guys, I'm in Mom's kitchen today. The cabinets are Mennonite cabinets, apparently. Napani, I think they're called, which apparently isn't as popular today, but apparently they're really nice cabinets because they're made by the Amish. And, these things, the knobs actually feel ceramic to me. I mean, this is original stuff going back. We bought this house in the early 1970s, and this stuff was here back then. So they could be ceramic. Again, I'm in Mom's, hi TikTok. I'm in Mom's place today. I do sound far away because I am in the kitchen that has more of an echo because the other room is being painted today. So sorry about that. The mic. You didn't hear about the mic. I left all of my doodads in Washington. So I don't have the connections I need I forgot one of the microphones. I forgot the connections for the microphones, the adapters. I then bought an adapter from Apple. I bought the wrong one and wasted $30. I'm like, okay, I gave up. Yes. So we are dealing with my, for you guys on YouTube, you're dealing with my laptop sound. And for you guys at TikTok, you are dealing with the sound on my iPad. Anyway, good evening, Jeff in the UK. So welcome, guys. Yes, I am broadcasting from Mom's kitchen, the latest location. Your grandpa built everything in your house, including the cabinets. Oh, that's very cool, Savannah. That's very cool. Wow, that's neat. So welcome, guys. So yes, I am. Thank you, Vicky. It's a little bit funny because since I'm in the kitchen today, because the other room is being painted, it's a little bit confusing for me because I've got the layout totally different too. I've got my TikTok, I've got you on my left this time, and YouTube, I've got you on my right. Everything's a little different, so I'm going to try to make this work. I have lots of news on Ukraine. I also have lots of election news. We're going to start with the election news. and then we'll jump to Ukraine. There's a good amount on both, actually. I would say we've got a good 50-50 show today as far as Ukraine and election. But let's start with the elections. All right. They're not painting the paneling. They're painting the ceiling. Good question, Poppy. They're painting the ceiling in the other room because the ceiling needed to be repainted. So, all right. So let's get rolling, guys. The first poll is this. Yes, this is one of the first polls conducted after the presidential debate. We now, again, the presidential debate was 2 nights ago. One of the very first polls has come in. It is a 2-day Reuters Ipsos poll. It closed Thursday, which is today. It shows Kamala Harris with an advantage of 5 percentage points among registered voters, with 47% supporting her, 42% supporting Trump. Now, that's good. Thank you, Courtney, for the gift. What you have to remember is Kamala Harris had a 4-point lead over Trump in the same poll conducted like 3 weeks ago, 2 to 3 weeks ago. That really means that Harris got a 1-point bump in the debate, according to this one poll, which actually is about right. I was telling you guys yesterday that CNN was saying, Harry Enton on CNN, who's their really smart pollster guy, Harry was saying that typically in a debate, the winner will receive about a 2 percentage point bump. And at least according to this Reuters poll, it looks like Harris got a 1 percentage point bump. So it's something. It's not huge, but it's something. Thank you, Randy, for the gifts. Pedro, Jorge, and Randy again. A little bit more here. The poll found that a majority of voters who had heard something about the debate thought Harris had won. 53% saying she won, 24% saying Trump won. The poll found that 52% of voters considered Trump too old to work in government. 7% said that of Harris, which is kind of funny. She's 59 years old. She's too old to work in government. People, come on. Among those polled who were familiar with the debate, 52% said Trump stumbled and didn't appear sharp, compared to 21% who said the same about Harris. Now, going to the battleground states. The battleground states are the key states that Trump and Kamala Harris both want and need. Now, they don't need all of them. They need sort of an assemblage of them. One of the things I always tell folks, and I don't want to belabor this, but it's important because we do get different people each day, especially on TikTok. We get new people each day, but also YouTube some. In America, presidential elections are not won by the national vote. They are won state by state. Thank you, Succeed, for the gift. In order to become president, you have to win 270 electoral votes. Each state is assigned a point value. Small states get 3 points, okay? Large states like California get 54 points. You have to get 270 points total to become president, which means you've got to win enough states and enough of the various point values to reach 270. If you don't, you don't win. Therefore, you could actually, thank you, Cool. Thank you, Darian, for the gifts. You could actually win the election by votes, which Hillary Clinton did. Hillary Clinton beat Donald Trump by 3 million votes or 2 percentage points back in 2016. She lost the election. Al Gore beat George Bush by 500,000 votes in the 2000 election. He lost because he didn't get the electoral votes. He didn't win the right states in order to reach that total of 270. So anyway, it's an important point to always remember with American elections. Looking at the national poll is interesting. It gives you some knowledge in the sense that if Joe Biden was 5 points behind Trump in the national poll and Kamala Harris is 2 points ahead of Trump in the national poll, it means she's doing a hell of a lot better than Biden. It does not mean she's going to win, but it means Biden had less of a chance of winning than she does. So it's useful. What you want to look at is the individual states, particularly the battleground states or the swing states, as they're called, which are the states that both sides tend to need, both sides are fighting for particularly, and states that very often swing back and forth. Sometimes they're Democrat, sometimes they're Republican, right? So they swing states. The Washington Post says that in 9 swing states tracked by the Washington Post, Harris holds leads in 6 of the 9. The Post says if she wins those 6 states, she'll secure 64 electoral votes to Trump's 43, giving her a narrow 14-vote electoral college victory. Meaning, if she were to win these 6 states that she's ahead of right now, she would win the presidency by 14 points. Remember, because I said you've got to get these 270 points to win the presidency. She would have a 14-point margin of victory. Get this, but in 3 of those states, her advantage is less than 3 percentage points. So in 3 of those states, she's close to Trump nonetheless. I mean, he's ahead, or she's ahead, but she's close. Thank you, Succeed. Very nice gift of the unicorn. Appreciate that. I haven't seen that one in a while, actually. Thank you. Listen to this, though. This is the most important point, okay? So we're talking about these 9 swing states, these 9 states that matter, that can go both ways, right? Harris is ahead in 6 of the 9. If she were to win those 6, she would win the presidency. But listen to this. In every state that we're talking about, of the 9, the confidence interval in our average allows for either candidate to win, meaning the margin of error in the polls means it's a tie. It's a tie in basically all 9 of these states. That's huge, right? And it's what we're seeing at the national level, and we're seeing it in the most important states, which is really interesting. I mean, honestly, my bet right now, guys, it's tied. I worry Trump could win it. What we found in 2016, but also 2020, was Trump did better than the polls showed. I will say there could be a lot of reasons for that, but one very typical reason is people are embarrassed to tell the pollster who they're voting for, because the person they're voting for is kind of a piece of garbage. So they typically, a pollster calls and they say, oh, I'm undecided, because they don't want to say I'm voting for the insurrectionist who was convicted of 34 felonies. So that's the problem you get with Donald Trump. Is 2016 big discrepancy in the polls, 2020 less, but it was still there. 2024, are the polls accurate? Is Kamala Harris slightly ahead? Is she tied, or is Trump actually ahead, but people are lying when they're being interviewed? It's a little scary, it's a little scary. A little bit more here. Voting is beginning. So this is interesting. The election is November. I'm going to get this down for good. Is it November 5th, guys? It's always the first Tuesday of the month in November. I think we said November 5th. I don't want to get it wrong, because then I'm giving you election misinformation. Somebody tell me what it is, but it's the first Tuesday of November. Voting is already beginning. We've got November 5th. Thank you, Dark Phoenix. So it's November 5th. Alabama began the process of mailing out absentee ballots yesterday. They're the first state to do so. Absentee ballots are basically ballots you can mail in, so you can vote anytime between now and the election. Mail ballots in North Carolina are also set to go out soon, and early in-person voting is set to start next week in parts of Pennsylvania and Virginia. That one's very interesting to me, because I didn't realize that you can vote early in person in a lot of states, including Pennsylvania and Virginia. So interestingly enough, now there's a reason I'm telling you this. This isn't just a interesting tidbit, the fact that voting is starting now. That means, okay, here's what's interesting about it. If voting is starting now in certain states, it doesn't matter what you do in a month. Those people already voted, right? So if it's a tie now, you have to worry because those people are voting in a state that it's a tie. Right? It's not like Kamala Harris has 2 more months to introduce herself. She doesn't, right? Even though she just came on the scene 3 weeks ago, more or less. She doesn't have 2 more months. In many states, people are voting now or voting soon, so that she's got to nail it down now. Now, same thing could happen with Trump, right? I mean, it kind of goes both ways. Something bad could happen, that Kamala Harris has a problem or something in 2 months, and it's too late because a lot of states have already voted. Or something bad could happen with Donald Trump, right? Something worse than has already happened. It may be too late in some of these states. So early voting is very interesting because it pretty much locks you in today to the election, so that you don't have 2 months to convince people that the other guy's bad or that you're good. So it's very interesting. And undecideds, well, like Sirbachi said, undecideds probably wait, which they probably do, which of course they would, I guess, right? If you're undecided, you can't vote early because you don't know who to vote for, right? You haven't decided yet. But yes, it's Guy Fawkes Day. I remember that. We talked about that before. A little more here. Taylor Swift. So Taylor Swift, you guys remember after the debate the other night, Tuesday night, Taylor Swift, who's a big international star, musician, singer, came out and endorsed Kamala Harris. Within the first 24 hours of her endorsing Kamala Harris, 400,000 people visited vote.gov, which is a voter registration website. And the people who run it said, I don't know how they calculated it, but that something like 330 to 400,000 people that came were people that Taylor Swift sent. So there were actual Swifties that went. It wasn't like people just happened to come. There were people who came because of her. In terms of another debate, Trump finally came out today and said he's refusing to do another debate with Kamala Harris. Thank you, Adventures. Thank you, Kronos. Thank you, Jetta, for the gifts. This one's kind of funny because Trump previously had said he was going to do several debates with her. Thank you, Mike, for the gift. He was going to do an NBC debate later this month, he said, and he was chastising Kamala just, I think, like a week ago. He was criticizing Kamala Harris and saying, you're afraid to debate me on NBC. Well, Trump came out today and said there aren't going to be any more debates. Now, it's kind of funny, actually. Thank you, Jakarta, for subscribing. He is claiming that because he won already, he goes, oh, I won the debate. I don't need to do another debate with her. It drives me crazy with this man. People may believe him. I don't know. Thank you, Randy. Thank you, Jason. He lost. And this is, again, this literally is a situation where everybody knows. Fox News admitted it. All the pundits are admitting it. We know Trump lost the debate. It's not a big deal. Biden lost the first debate. You lose debates. You can lose debates and win. And Obama lost the first debate in 2012, and he beat Mitt Romney anyway. So just because you lose a debate doesn't mean you're going to lose the election. But Trump lost the debate, and he's literally trying to spin it now as he won. And because he won, he doesn't need to debate her again. He's not debating her again because she destroyed him, and he's afraid of debating her because she was great. She made him look old and angry, which is not a good look, obviously, for the presidency. So in any case, there will be no more debates. Thank you, Doughboy. Thank you, Annette. Harris's fundraising edge. This was interesting. New York Times had an article. Thank you. Who was that? Doughboy? Oh, no. Oh, Tarad. Oh, Doughboy with the bracelet and Tarad with the flowers. Thank you, guys. The fundraising edge. Harris has been raising a lot more money than Trump, which in American elections sadly makes a big difference. Well, thank you, Jen, for that. It sadly makes a huge difference, sadly. Money matters. It matters for ads, advertising. It matters for getting out the vote. It matters for hiring staff in all the various states that you got to, have them running your campaign. So she's making a lot more money than Trump is, which is great. Thank you, Jen. Thank you, Annette. Thank you, Randy and Fred and Hazel. Give you a little bit of a sense. She raised $47 million in the first 24 hours following her debate with Trump. This is the second most amount she raised after when she first entered the race in July, and she raised $81 million on that first day. So that was the most she raised. This is the second most she raised in one day. It came from 600,000 people. Harris, according to the New York Times, already had a significant financial edge over Trump. Entering September, her operation said it had $404 million in cash on hand. Trump only had $295 million. So Harris had $110 million more, $109 million more than Trump. Harris's campaign nearly tripled Trump's fundraising number in August. So in August of this year, Harris raised 3 times as much money as Trump did. Again, cannot be underestimated. Sadly, money is very important in our politics, and it's not really bribing people. It literally is buying ads for TV and radio and internet, hiring staff in the states that are organizing the get out the vote efforts, that are organizing come election day or early voting, how they run phone banks, drive buses, taxi service, whatever they can do to get people to vote. So the money goes for all of that. It's hugely important. Thank you, Martin, Eileen, Annette, and Annette again for the various gifts on TikTok. My voice is still a mess. I really am convinced that the Canadian fires are doing so, or the Californian fires, because I did smell it out in Chicago the other day, and my voice is just continuing to be like my Brenda Vaccaro voice. Ohio. So they're eating dogs, they're eating cats. You guys remember that Trump claimed incorrectly that Haitian immigrants, illegal Haitian immigrants, i.e. black people, were eating people's pets in Springfield, Ohio. And the name Springfield, no one's really been mentioning this much. Isn't Springfield the town in The Simpsons? Or is it a different name? Or am I mixing this up? Isn't it Springfield? It just makes me laugh if that's true. Yes, that's what. Thank you, Helen. That's what I thought. It just makes it even funnier that he was like, well, in Springfield. Now, I don't know, is it Springfield? In The Simpsons, do they ever say what state it is, or do they just say Springfield? I don't remember if they actually said the state. Like, is it Ohio? Is it Illinois? Or every other state has one anyway. They don't. Okay, well, every state probably has a Springfield, right? Thank you, Jane, for the gift. So Trump, during the debate, repeated this internet conspiracy theory that's a total lie, that illegal Haitian immigrants were kidnapping, or are kidnapping, dogs and cats in Springfield, Ohio, and eating them. And one woman even gave a detail of my neighbor's, my neighbor's daughter's friend was the story, which was my favorite, actually, because once somebody says my neighbor's daughter's friend told me, it's bullshit. But they said that my neighbor's daughter's friend found her cat strung up in the yard with its throat cut, being bled like a I don't even know what, a chicken. I don't know what you do that to. Total false. All the news outlets went to the town. They interviewed people. They interviewed the town manager. They interviewed the police. The police said there have been absolutely no reports. Literally no police reports, guys. Nobody's reported anything, right? Well, Trump claimed it was true. Well, what do you think happened? The town is now getting bomb threats. The city is getting bomb threats. They've had to close down the town. They closed down the city hall for 2 days. I will leave it to you to guess who's doing bomb threats against the town that Donald Trump has been criticizing all week. So really nice. Alberto Gonzalez, this one kind of blew my mind. I'm going to read you a little bit of this. This is from Alberto Gonzalez, who was George Bush's attorney general and George Bush's White House counsel. This is, thank you, Nicola, for the gift. And who is it? Blue Sky and Nauseous as well. George Bush the second George Bush, so the son who became president, not the first one. So the one who was president from 2001 to 2009, between Clinton and Obama, Republican. His attorney general, which is the top law enforcement officer in the U.S., our Department of Justice, which I don't know what you'd actually call it in a European. What would that be for a European ministry? Department of Justice. It's law enforcement, but it's separate from the FBI. The FBI is a part of it, which is the actual investigators and police kind of thing. But I'm not sure what you would call, whether you'd say a Ministry of Justice. It's not Ministry of Defense, though. It's not defense. It's Home Office. Is that what the Brits would call it? They're in charge of law, investigating the law breaking, typically within the U.S., although I'm sure they have international as well. But it's typically the chief law enforcement group in the U.S., Department of Justice. Anyway, Home Office for the Brits. Okay, I always hear the Home Office. I never knew that's what it actually was. Interpol's a little different because Interpol would be an international police body. Interpol might even be closer to the FBI in some ways, because the FBI is the sort of police arm of the Department of Justice. The prosecutors, exactly. The prosecutors are from the Department of Justice. In any case, the Alberto Gonzalez was President George Bush, who was a Republican, was his attorney general, so his top law enforcement officer in the U.S. He came out today and endorsed Kamala Harris, and he wrote an op-ed in Politico magazine about it, or Politico newspaper about it, which is really, really good and really damning. Now, what's interesting about this, sorry, a little bit from my lips, is in the end, I don't know how much these things help or don't help. It is certainly very interesting. In the case of Donald Trump, you have a lot of senior people who worked for Donald Trump, for example, who are not supporting him. And honestly, Democrats to some degree almost don't take advantage of this enough. Thank you, Jerry. Thank you, Nicola. Donald Trump has a new vice president, right? JD Vance. What happened to the old one? Well, what happened to the old one was Donald Trump tried to have him killed. Donald Trump sicked a crowd on him on January 6th that was literally saying they were going to lynch him. They even built like a lynching, to be a lynching is hanging, right? So that's why Donald Trump had to pick a new vice president. His old vice president isn't even supporting him for president. A lot of Trump's top people, Secretary of State's not supporting him. White House Chief of Staff not supporting him. National Security Advisor not supporting him. Minister of Defense, Minister, we say Secretary of Defense not supporting him. Thank you, Shade Blade, for subscribing. So you've got Alberto Gonzalez, who was his attorney general, George Bush, also not supporting Trump. I want to read this to you, though, because what he said was still kind of amazing to me. As the United States approaches a critical election, I can't sit quietly as Donald Trump, perhaps the most serious threat to the rule of law in a generation, eyes a return to the White House. For that reason, though I am a Republican, I've decided to support Kamala Harris for president. Power is intoxicating, and based on Trump's rhetoric and conduct, it appears unlikely that he would respect the power of the presidency in all instances. Rather, he would abuse it for personal and political gain and not on behalf of the American people. Perhaps the most revealing example relates to Trump's conduct on January 6, 2021, when he encouraged his followers to march on our nation's capital in order to challenge the certification of Joe Biden's electoral victory. Trump failed to do his duty and exercise his presidential power to protect members of Congress, law enforcement, and the Capitol from the attacks that day. He failed to deploy executive branch personnel to save lives and property and preserve democracy. He just watched on television and chose not to do anything because that would have been contrary to his interests. Trump still describes the day as beautiful. And as for those subsequently convicted of committing crimes, he describes them as hostages. He also has promised to pardon the convicted rioters if elected. Why? Because they were acting in his interests. Last paragraph. Any discussion about fidelity to the rule of law has to include Trump's 34 state felony convictions, his state civil financial judgment of libel based on sexual abuse, as well as the pending federal elections interference case, not to mention the recently dismissed federal documents case that Special Counsel Jack Smith is continuing to pursue. Standing alone, these charges, convictions, and judgments show that Trump is someone who fails to act time and time again in accordance with the rule of law. There is little evidence that he has the integrity and character to responsibly wield the power of the presidency within the limits of the law, and no amount of rationalization to support Trump because of his policies can overcome the disqualification of this man based on his lack of integrity. It's a much longer piece, but I wanted to grab those three. It's pretty serious stuff. What I don't know, as we said, is will it have a difference? I will say this. Every time you have a senior Republican official come out and attack Donald Trump or endorse Kamala Harris, it makes it easier for others. I think if you've got, for example, some people are Republicans. They don't like Trump, but they've always voted for Republicans and they feel wrong not voting for a Republican, even though they don't like Trump, right? They feel wrong voting for a Democrat. This makes it easier for them. This gives them permission. Every time there is a Republican official who says, do not vote for this man, and you can vote for her, it starts to, it's called the Overton window in some ways in politics, but it basically means you're starting to give permission to people where they feel more comfortable saying, okay, I'm a Republican too, maybe I'll vote for Kamala Harris. So, you really can't put a price on it in that regard. But as I said, it's hard to sort of say how each of these influences the election, but I think as they accumulate, let's face it, you do not see senior Democrats supporting Donald Trump. The only person doing it is what's her face? Tulsi Gabbard, who was this kind of crazy congresswoman. She was a low-level congresswoman. She wasn't important. And she was always kind of a little bit of a crazy, but kind of, had an anti-gay past, like kind of conservative, whatever. She said, you have no senior officials. You don't have former government officials, Democrats supporting Trump. You don't get none of that. You get none of that. So anyway, she literally grew up in a cult. Correct, Helen. Yep. Finally, our final story in the election, and then we're going to switch over to Ukraine, is Russian propagandists are very upset at Trump's debate performance. So this came via the Kyiv Independent. Multiple commentators for Russian state television on September 11th expressed disappointment in former President Trump's performance in the first debate against Kamala Harris. TV hosts in Russia argued that Trump must have been sabotaged to perform so poorly against Harris. Kremlin propagandist Vladimir Soloviev, he's probably the most famous one, he's a real jerk, expressed outrage when moderator David Muir fact-checked Trump's baseless allegation about immigrants eating people's cats and dogs. Why would he do that? Soloviev said. I thought he was supposed to be unbiased. Alexei Nomov, a panelist from the Russian International Affairs Council, also bemoaned Trump's poor showing against Harris. Quote, Harris managed to lure Trump into every trap she set for him. I wish I hadn't watched that. What's interesting is they're not just observing the debate. The Russia, and mind you, in Russia, it's a dictatorship. The people on Russian TV literally work for the government. Nobody is going to say anything that the government disagrees with, or you're going to go to prison. At best, go to prison in Russia, right? These guys work for the government. They're not simply talking about how the debate went. It would be one thing for them to say Trump lost. Trump did lose. You can objectively say Trump lost. They're not saying Trump lost. They're saying, I wish I hadn't watched that. Right? Because the idea of Trump losing sickens them. They want Trump to win. Russia wants Trump to win. We've known this. We all know it. I don't need to bemoan this or belabor this. Thank you, Grace, for the gift. But it was just sort of an interesting fact on that front. All right, let's switch over to Ukraine. It is day 931 of Vladimir Putin's 3-day special military operation. The latest news is that JD Vance apparently has a peace plan for Ukraine that you'll be surprised to hear is a disaster. This also came via the Kyiv Independent. Vance said that his plan to end the war, Trump's plan, could include establishing a so-called demilitarized zone between Ukraine and Russia, presumably resembling the current line of demarcation between the countries. So he wants a demilitarized zone, right? So neither side could have troops, but he would have it cut through Ukraine and give Ukraine the land that Russia already stole, right? Thank you, Sandra, for the gift. So, it's one thing to say you've got Ukraine's border and Russia's border, and let's have a no man's land near the border where neither side puts troops. But you don't say, let's give Russia all the land they stole and put a demilitarized, in other words, put the demilitarized zone in Ukraine, but not in Russia, right? That's stupid. It should be both. Ukraine would listen to this. Ukraine would retain its sovereignty, but at the same time would have to give guarantees to Russia that it would not join NATO or any other allied institutions. Oh, God, the man works for Russia. Thank you, Sandra. Thank you, Hellfire. If Ukraine doesn't join NATO, Ukraine is going to get invaded by Russia again, and we're going to be going through this entire thing again. Why should Ukraine promise not to join NATO? The war right now is kind of stuck. It's stuck. Ukraine, I think, is going to have a hard time winning. Russia is having a hard time winning. This should not all be a peace proposal, should not all be what can we give Russia, right? And that's what JD Vance is doing. It's what Donald Trump is doing. And it's what Kamala Harris actually said during the debate the other night. She said, this man's solution to the war in Ukraine is to give Vladimir Putin everything he wants, right? Is to give up. It's to give up and give Vladimir Putin everything he wants. That's not the way you end the war. Why is that? Because Putin invaded Ukraine because he wants all of Ukraine. Now, JD Vance, let me read you this actually. JD Vance did say one other thing that was incredibly stupid, or two things. During the interview, Vance also claimed that Russia should not have attacked Ukraine, but Ukraine also has many problems with corruption. Do you get that? So the one good thing he says is Russia shouldn't have invaded, okay, but Ukraine is a very corrupt country. Let's pretend Ukraine is a very corrupt country. Why? How is that a but to Russia invading, right? Russia shouldn't have invaded their neighbor and tried to commit genocide, but the Ukrainian government has a lot of corruption. Okay, that's not an excuse for Russia invading and trying to wipe the country out, right? Secondly, Ukraine doesn't have a lot of corruption in terms of the world overall. You can Google the corruption index. I believe it's transparency.org. Thank you, Adventures, for the gift. And you'll see Ukraine is around 104 on the transparency list. The number one government, I think it's Denmark, is the least corrupt government in the world, allegedly, Denmark. US, I want to say, were we 14 or 24? We're not great, to be honest. Ukraine was around 104. Guess who's 115? Turkey, our NATO ally, Turkey, right? That we have promised to defend, right? With our NATO ally, we will defend to the death. Turkey, if anybody invades, 114, 115 actually. Ukraine is less corrupt than Turkey. You know where Russia falls on the list? Russia is around 140 on the list in terms of corruption. So meaning, again, one is the least corrupt, 140 is getting close to the bottom of the list. Ukraine is at about 104. So Russia is like 50% more corrupt than Ukraine. But also, it just doesn't matter. That's not an excuse for invading and trying to wipe out the country, wipe everybody out. Vance, final point from Vance. It's got a lot to do with money. Let's just be honest. No, it doesn't. It really doesn't. He says okay, he's such an idiot. He's been in government for 2 years. he wrote a good book, apparently. He's not a very bright guy. He says, many wars start because of the fight for resources. You're kind of like, oh, JD, did you read a book in high school? Is that how you learned that? Many wars start because of the fight for resources, and Ukraine's a very resource-rich country. Putin isn't invading for resources. I mean, he may want some resources. Putin's invading because if you bother doing some research on this topic, you would learn that the Russians don't think Ukraine exists. They think Ukraine is Russia. It's Russian territory. And basically there's usurpers, they call them Nazis even, that are running Ukraine. And it's actually a Russian territory that the Ukrainians are occupying, and the Russians want it back. Second reason the Russians want it back is because they want to reconstitute the Soviet Union. In the same way that the Russians felt like all the Soviet Union belonged to them too, the Soviet Union was basically 14 countries that one country, Russia, was occupying. Russia was pretty much occupying 14 other countries. The Russians believe that not only does Ukraine not exist, they believe that Latvia, Lithuania, and Estonia don't exist. They're part of Russia too. Right? They're not really independent countries, and they shouldn't be independent countries. It's not about getting minerals from Latvia. They just literally don't respect these countries, and they want their land because they think you're Russian. And if you're not Russian, frankly, they'll kick you out and they'll ship you off to Siberia, which is what they did in Ukraine before, especially to like the Tatars in Crimea. They literally just shipped them out to Siberia and put Russians there instead. So JD Vance is an idiot, suggesting that this is all about money. Like, money is like this much of the problem. The problem is the Russians want to reconstitute their empire. It's really just, yeah, anyway, he's an idiot. All right. Politico. So we're still having this discussion about Biden. As you guys know, this week we have been discussing whether the Biden administration will lift some of its restrictions on Ukraine using American weapons to attack in Russia itself. Why does that matter? Actually, you know what? I'm going to risk doing this. I think I'm going to have one of my inhalers today. I can tell my asthma. This weather in Chicago, but you know what this means? If I use my inhaler, it means I'm going to be like flying, but I don't think I have a choice, guys. 1 second. There we go. You're supposed to count to 10 after you use your inhaler. But I can tell when the weather gets like this, I can tell I'm like out of breath as I'm talking to you. I don't get this in DC at all. It's been happening out here in Chicago a lot. In a minute, I'll do one more. So Biden has been considering this week whether we should allow Ukraine to use American weapons to strike in Russia. Why would the Ukrainians need to do that? Well, because the Russians are bordering Ukraine. Russia and Ukraine have a common border. And the Russians are attacking Ukraine from Russia. They've also invaded Ukraine, but they've got a lot of troops, a lot of air bases especially, where they've got bombers, they've got missiles that are taking off from the air bases, the bombers especially taking off from the air bases and bombing Ukraine. And if the Ukrainians were able to hit those air bases, they would be able to take out those bombers, or at least take out the air bases so the bombers couldn't even land there, take right from there. Well, that's why Ukraine wants to have weapons that can go long distance like that. The US and the Brits have said no. Now, the Brits have said no, you cannot use our weapons to attack deep in Russia because the Americans told them to do it. The Americans they said, don't do it. Do not let the Ukrainians use your cruise missiles to hit deep inside Russia. Well, supposedly this week, Biden is reconsidering that. He may make a decision soon. If he does, it'll still take several months for it to be implemented, which gives us just enough time for Donald Trump to kill it if he becomes president. But because all Trump has to do is walk in and go, no, you no longer have permission, which he will. He absolutely will. Thank you, Marge, because Donald Trump works for Russia. I mean, he does. We know this. He's got a sick fascination with dictators overall, but especially the Russians. And, quick inhaler. There we go. Okay, I'm good now. Thank you, Denise, for the gift. Thank you, Marge. Anyway, so yeah, let's hope Ukraine gets the permission. I'm not convinced they will. And even if they will, it's going to take months for it to be implemented, which is not good. All right, yes, hyper, John. I know. My inhaler always makes me a little bit hyper, so get ready for that. A little more here. In terms of Kursk, so the Kursk region, is the region in Russia that the Ukrainians invaded over a month ago now, really. It's been a month and almost a week. The Ukrainians decided to fight back by invading Russia, taking a part of Russia. They did. The Russians were trying to take it back. They launched a counteroffensive this week, we hear. Russian military bloggers say that Ukraine actually may be opening up a new line of attack in Kursk, which is interesting. There's been some conflicting reports coming out of there. Thank you, Ava. The Russians are claiming that they've recaptured 10 of the 100 villages or so that Ukraine got. The problem is it's Russia. You literally can't trust a word they say, which is why I typically don't report on that stuff, because there's just no reason to believe anything the Russians say about this. Thank you, Ava, for the gift. Randy, Fred, multiple gifts there too. Nonetheless, the Ukrainians reportedly, and what's interesting here is these are Russian military bloggers saying the Ukrainians opened up a new line of attack. That's a little more credible. When the Russians say, oh God, the Ukrainians are attacking, typically they have less reason to lie about that. That's interesting because it means the Ukrainians were on the defensive a little bit for the land they were holding in Russia, but it also looks like they're doing some sort of counteroffensive themselves, which is great. Russia struck a cargo ship carrying Ukrainian wheat bound for Egypt. The ship was in the Black Sea. Russian tank manufacturing plant caught fire in Omsk. It is a plant that produces military equipment, including tanks and multiple rocket launchers capable of using thermobaric weapons. One assumes that Ukraine blew it up. Ukrainian reconnaissance and special forces blew up a railroad in Russia's Belgorod Oblast, derailing a freight train. I believe that happened yesterday. Ukraine downed a Russian Su-30 aircraft over the Black Sea. The U.S. Defense Department awarded a contract worth around $1.2 billion to Raytheon Defense Contractor for the production of air-to-air AMRAAM missiles. And this story, this is the last story I got about Ukraine. This one was kind of good. And then I'll get to your guys' questions. I see Marion and others asking questions here. We'll get to those in a second. Thank you, Sunshine, for the gift. Randy and Fred, too. Financial Times is reporting that Spain, the government of Spain, blocked a Hungarian takeover of a Madrid-based company that makes trains. The Hungarians, a company, but company tied to the Hungarian government, wanted to invade. I'm sure the Hungarians would like to invade. They wanted to, thank you, Randy. The Hungarians wanted to buy the Spanish train maker, and the Spanish government said no because of Ukraine. Now, I think it's a combination of Ukraine. It's also saying, Hungary? Why the hell would we want Hungarians to buy Spanish companies when the Hungarians are basically the worst ally on the planet and they're pro-Putin, they're pro-Russian? Listen to this. This is from Financial Times. A senior Spanish government official said Madrid vetoed the 619 million euro bid. Well, similar in dollars, I'd say maybe $630 million for Talgo, the company, in part because the company could aid Ukraine's reconstruction by helping it strengthen its rail links with the European Union. Spain's Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez has criticized Orban, who's the wannabe dictator of Hungary, as the pro-Putin leader of the international far right, and said the Hungarian Prime Minister wants to bring Ukraine to its knees. So I think what you've got going on here is two things. One, the Spanish government doesn't want to do anything that would hurt Ukraine because the Hungarians would say, we're not going to allow this company to help the Ukrainians, right? But the second thing is you are seeing European governments time and time again basically cut Hungary out of the picture. Hungary has shown it is a bad ally. They don't like NATO. They don't like the European Union. They want to be part of the Soviet Union again. I mean, I'm sorry, anybody who's Hungarian here, you've got a screwed up government, but also you got screwed up voters because they voted for him again. Recently, it's always say the first time maybe you get away with it, but they voted for the guy again. They want a wannabe dictator. They want a guy who I think probably misses the good old days of the Soviet Union when Hungary was a vassal state of the Russians, and the Hungarians would get slaughtered by the Soviet military. And I think it's the exact same kind of people that would vote for Orban. And you're seeing European countries again and again and again basically cutting off the Hungarians and going, sorry, you want to be a dictatorship? You want to be part of the Soviet Union? You don't like NATO? You don't like the European Union? Well, we don't like you either. If you want to do some business deals, feel free to go buy some Russian companies, basically, is what they're saying. It's pretty cool, actually. Thank you, Janice, for the gift. So that's it for the news. Good question, Marion. Did Orban comment on the debate? Well, here's the thing. Thank you, Randy and Fred and Janice again for the gifts. My guess is that Orban, we'd have to Google and see. My guess is Orban would not comment on the debate because Trump lost. What's he going to say? Right? If Trump won, it would be easy for him to go, look at how great Donald Trump is. We look forward to him winning, right? But Trump lost so badly to Kamala Harris that it's kind of weird. It's kind of weird for him to weigh in because he knows he's also going to look a little stupid going, oh, Trump did so well when he didn't do well. So I don't know. I'm curious, actually. I mean, Google and see if he said something. Hey, Chris, thank you for the gift. Did Trump sell all his Truth Social stock yet? I didn't see what happened today. Yesterday, let's do a quick Google here. Yesterday, Trump's Truth, actually, I'll look right here. Trump's Truth Socials, I'll pull up Robinhood. Trump's Truth Social stock, his company, plummeted after the debate. It dropped like 13% after the debate with Kamala Harris. Let's see what it did today. It may have come back a little bit, people wanting to make some money. Trump Media, down another 3.6% today. Well, you can kind of, here, I will show you can kind of see for the week. You see how it went up? Literally where it plummets, that's the night of the debate. That's the night it goes up and up and up, and then the night of the debate it drops. It has now dropped since that point. It has dropped 19 percentage points drop in Trump stock. 19 percentage point drop total. Not good news for Moose and Squirrel, but I don't think he sold it yet. No. Then again, Trump made a lot. He's making a lot on all these deals. He's trying to do a cryptocurrency deal too, but Oh, that's interesting. Romanian waters were violated by the Russian bombing the grain ship. I was wondering about that. That's an interesting question, Home Time, because the Ukrainian ships tend to travel in, Romanian and Bulgarian and then Turkish waters. And the Russians aren't allowed to attack ships in those waters, but I didn't see what actually happened. Trump can sell September 18th or 19th. I didn't realize that was that's even funnier then. If he was hoping to sell next week and it just dropped 20%, that's pretty funny. Well, let's see. Let's hope it keeps dropping. What is it at now? Was it $12 or more than that? Hang on. It's at $16. The thing is, when it came out, it jumped to initially jumped to $50. That was right after Trump launched the stock. It jumped to $50. Now it's at 16. That's a lot less. And actually, if you look at this, you'll see that initial jump, it's flatlined. The initial jump is when Trump actually, he bought a previously existing company that was on the exchange so he could put his company on the exchange. So you see it jump when they first launched, kind of goes flat, then it jumps, goes down, up, and then now it's just constantly going down. You see how it's just, show you guys, it's flat at the beginning because that's before Trump officially launched his stock. Then he launches his stock, it goes pretty high. But then you see how the last several months has been down, 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 down. Actually, that has been since May. You could actually even argue since end of March, it's been going down, actually. So yeah. Oh, well, Putin will buy it. Yeah, Putin could buy it. That is very true. Putin could buy it. So let's do our Q&A. Oh my God, this air quality is going to kill me here. So Trump can sell September 19th. That's interesting, Rob. I did not know that. Very interesting. Did Hannibal Lecter comment on the debate? Yeah. Seth Meyers showing the debate? I did not see. Have Ukrainians started kidnapping cursed children? Doubtful. Requiring everyone to speak Ukrainian? No. The Ukrainians, actually, there were some stories on this. The Ukrainians have basically been very nice, and they interviewed some of the Russian citizens of the territory Ukraine's occupying in Russia, and the Russian citizens have been saying, they've been very nice to us, unlike what the Russians do when they invade and they pretty much shoot all the civilians, which they literally did in Bucha and other Ukrainian cities. They would also take men out. But what they did in Bucha, the Russians did, which is a town north of Kyiv. When the Russians invaded, they went through the town and they made every man of military age, so 18 to 60, come out of the house. And when they came out, they shot him dead. Every man who was 18 to 60. Ukrainians did not do that because the Ukrainians are not barbarians. I'm not sure what's going on with Crimea lately, Michael. That's a good question. Is Ukraine attacking Crimea at all? Not sure. Oh, I did see, shoot, I forgot to mention it. I don't know that this was Crimea, though. The Ukrainians did take out, I believe, another S-400, which is huge. Let me see here. Hang on. Let me see if I can find this. Hold on here. Shoot, I hope I've got this. Maybe I don't have it here. Come on. Oh, shoot, this was from last night. I don't think I've got it here. It was Preston Stewart was reporting on it, and I tried to grab it, but I don't think I grabbed it here. That the Ukrainians took out an S-400 sort of anti-aircraft system, which is a big deal. A very big deal. That's huge. Looking here, I don't think I've got it here. Anyway, no, too bad. Nope, I did have it. Wait, I'm gonna look one more time. No, it wasn't Preston. It was Jimmy Rushton. An S-400 missile system at Cape Tarkonkuk in Crimea. I was thinking it might be Crimea. Yep, was hit, and there is footage showing Russian soldiers watching as 2 Neptune missiles flew towards their position. So we don't know the condition of the system, but it's the S-400 is a big deal. That's the really good system that the Ukrainian has already taken a few of them out. I believe, I'm trying to remember, was that the system that is worth anywhere from $500 million to $1 billion or something? I remember the price range was kind of a wide range, but that's a big deal. Yeah. Brendy, thank you for the question on YouTube. We know if Trump loses, he will lie and say he won. He will say, yep. Do you think his supporters will really try to start a civil war? Some of them will, if he tells them to. We already know that, right? I mean, this is why the man should be in prison and why he's so dangerous. And this is why I will say, in a funny way, I don't have sympathy for the insurrectionists, right, who tried to overthrow our government on January 6th. But let me give you an analogy, okay? And I'm not saying this to exonerate them, but it's more to say how dangerous Trump is. And his words, his rhetoric, if you are a Democrat or anyone who isn't a Trump person, right? And Joe Biden tells you that the election was stolen. This election right now, okay? Let's say this election happens. And Kamala Harris says the Trump people literally stole the election. The Republicans, I won. I got the most votes. And the Republicans in the states and the legislatures, they literally stole the election. They cheated. And Nancy Pelosi says it's true. Chuck Schumer tells you it's true, right? Hakeem Jeffries, the top members of Congress, House and Senate, tell you it's absolutely true. They literally stole the election, and they are literally putting the wrong man in the presidency, okay? The CNN tells you it's true. The New York Times tells you it's true, okay? All the news outlets tell you true. Barack Obama tells you it's true. Everybody you trust in politics, everybody you trust in the media tells you it is absolutely true. The Republicans literally stole the election. And the man they're putting in office, Donald Trump, literally did not win. We just had a coup d'etat in America. Your response to that could be violent. It could be. If somebody told you that we literally had a coup d'etat in America, right? A coup meaning like a violent takeover of our government. If we had a violent takeover of our government, and somebody literally put not just the wrong man, but like the guy who didn't win as president, I would be afraid there would be violence. That is what is so dangerous about what Trump and the Republicans are doing and what they did last time. That it is not a surprise that the Trump supporters tried to violently overthrow the government, because it made sense with what Trump told them, right? Trump literally told them that we were having a coup, that he literally told them the members of Congress got together, and Mike Pence was part of it. They got together and they knew Trump won, and they were going to fake it, right? They were counting the votes, but they knew they were counting fake votes. If we found out that and the Republicans did try this, by the way. Again, Trump also is always telling you things he does. Trump and his people literally tried to present fake votes, fake vote counts to the Congress. Remember the alternate electors? They were the fake vote counts. They wanted Mike Pence to basically recognize the fake votes. Had they done that? Had they recognized the fake votes? Like literally voting records that weren't real, and we know they weren't real, they were made up? Right? So that's what worries me. That is what is so dangerous, is I wouldn't be surprised if Republicans turned violent, if Donald Trump and Fox News and all of their members of Congress, everybody they trust, tells them, yeah, it was stolen from us by these people, right? Because bottom line is, even though we know Fox News lies, right? And we know Trump lies, and we know a lot of the Republicans lie, we also know that our side doesn't, right? We know CNN doesn't lie. Barack Obama doesn't lie, right? Right? I mean, Kamala Harris, I trust her. She's not going to lie. Joe Biden, he's not going to lie. Meaning, they're not going to claim they won the election if they didn't, right? If all of them get together, and CNN and the New York Times, if everyone gets together and says, oh yeah, they literally stole this election, we know it's true because we know they wouldn't lie. If you're a Republican, you think the same thing about Fox News, right? Even though we know Fox News is misinformation. From their perspective, Fox News wouldn't lie to us, right? From their perspective, Donald Trump wouldn't lie to them. They love Donald Trump. Why would he lie, right? I mean, we all know he's the pathological liar, but you've got to get in their mind. In their mind, they're the good guys. Their folks would never lie to them. Well, I think per se, they would potentially turn violent if this happened because they would think that we had a coup d'etat in America. No, so it is incredibly, so yes, I think it's incredibly dangerous. Absolutely incredibly dangerous. Yeah, Marion mentions Georgia. I was reading about it. I'm not like the expert on it, but they passed some laws in the state of Georgia for local officials to basically like hold their election count, because local officials count the votes and then report it to the state, and then the state reports it to Washington. And they've empowered local officials to like hold the election count, hold the count of the votes if they suspect they might not be valid, or I forget the language exactly. What basically, it just simply means local Republican activists can say, I know you say Kamala Harris won. That just doesn't seem right to me. It smells wrong, so I'm not going to report the votes. So now all of a sudden, Georgia's votes aren't reported. Kamala Harris doesn't get them if Kamala Harris won the state, right? I mean, it actually is even more dangerous than that, because if certain states aren't ever reported, you've got to win. 270 isn't actually the number you have to win. It's a majority, I believe. It's a majority of the electoral votes. It's not 270. 270 just happens to be the majority of all the electoral votes, right? But if you take out Georgia, then the electoral votes go down, the total electoral votes. A majority of them might be 260 instead of 270. Well, every time it comes down in a Democratic state, Trump still has his electoral votes. So let's say this is Kamala Harris and this is Trump, and she wins. They knock out one of her states. They knock out another of her states. She's now down to here. If they knock out enough states, not only is Trump in the lead, but the number of electoral votes you need is fewer because it's a majority of the votes that counted. So if you knock out a bunch of states, it's a majority of the states that are left. This is, I mean, like I said, my friend Mike at Center for American Progress did a ton of this research, and he's doing it again last election. This was the stuff that a bunch of people, it was funny, people didn't believe him. People were like, oh, he's being such an extremist. And then the Republicans did every single thing that Mike had predicted, and not predicted, that he had warned about. It's really screwed up. Yeah. Which is strange then, because doesn't the Georgia rules mean that Fulton County can prevent Georgia going to Trump and Trump winning by just failing to certify? Oh, you mean, well, a Democratic county could do it too. Yes. Right? The only problem is Democrats are the good guys. I mean, Hillary Clinton meant she had a word for this. What did she call it? She basically described how sort of Democrats, she wasn't saying it's the problem of Democrats, but she was saying that basically it's sort of the curse maybe of Democrats that, and she used, if somebody can Google the phrase and find it was a great phrase, but it was sort of the responsibility gene, she called it, or something like Democrats have the responsibility gene, meaning, yeah, Republicans will use that law to try to steal the election. They'll use that law to say, well, we don't think the votes were really counted, right? Democrats wouldn't do that. Democrats, generally speaking, would say, yeah, it's unfortunate he got the votes, but we think he got the votes. Because Democrats have the responsibility gene. They have they feel like they've got to do the right thing. Not all Democrats, some people cheat, right? But generally speaking, they feel like they've got to do the right thing, and then they let Republicans do the crazy thing. You don't see Democrats trying to shut down the government and to get things. Republicans are the ones who do that because Democrats know it would destroy the economy and also destroy the world economy if you did that. So they don't do it. Republicans are like, sure. I think she called it the responsibility gene. Like I said, it was very interesting. So that would be, my thought would be, Democrats are much less likely to actually do it, but they could. I mean, that's certainly one response. But then again, if Democrats start doing it too, then it gets thrown to the Congress. And then it becomes the House of Representatives picking the president, which is also, as you know, very confusing because it's not a majority of the members, it's a majority of the delegations of the states, I believe, right? It's a majority of the states picking the president. So it's a mess, absolute mess. So anyway, yes, Trump and Laura Loomer, he's in trouble on this one. Trump has been inviting a conspiracy nut job on his plane up until the debate. Actually, she was coming off the plane before the debate. Her name is Laura Loomer. She's crazy. I mean, she's a conspiracy nut, a total conspiracy nut, and claimed last year 9/11 was an inside job, September 11th. She was putting out the cat and dog eating story. But I mean, she really, I always have a hard time explaining who these people are. She's not a conservative. She's far worse than Elon. Somebody said like Elon Musk, far worse than Elon Musk. Elon Musk, I think, is a sane person who likes to put out bullshit to confuse people. This woman is a bullshit machine as far as the conspiracy stuff she spews. I mean, she's a conspiracy nut, literally. Trump is her now best buddy. And he invites her on the plane with him. She flies on his little private jet to all the events and stuff. Must have helped him with the debate, one assumes. So they're reporting it on CNN because it's causing Trump a little blowback now because people are looking into who she actually is. I know that her face is a little scary now, sadly. She did a lot of plastic surgery, which I will never understand. Maybe. Like, I get how people do some of it, but, the crazy out of control stuff, The dog is drinking. Okay, Sasha, maybe not anymore. Sasha, 1 second. Okay, there you go. I just have to block her. She loves to drink water, but she won't stop. And then she'll first get sick and then have to pee every hour until morning. So then she'll wake me up at 3 a.m. having to pee. So I've always got to jump in and go, okay, that's enough. So, yes. Yeah. Elon Musk's disgusting little comment about Taylor Swift. He suggested he was going to impregnate her or something. I mean, it was just disgusting. He's a little bit messed up. Don't give me that sound. I took you out before the show. Don't do this to me. Don't do this to me. She's looking at me and I'm getting a, let's see. There's a possibility the dog does have to go pee because she does this to me. Okay, she's got to go out, guys. Give me a quick second. We can do this for a few more minutes. Give me a second to take her out and I'll come right back. I can tell when she looks at the door and starts to whine, it means, Dad, I've really got to go. All right, let me find her leash. All right, real quick, Sash. Real quick. All right, troublemaker. Okay, go. Let's go. Go. All right. Okay. Okay. Woo! There we go. Sorry. That dog had to go. The dog's got to go. This is the story of my life. The story of my life. Biden, unless he just authorized it, I'm not seeing it on TV. Did Biden just authorize the long-range use of U.S. weapons in Ukraine? Let's Google and see. Sometimes if it just happens, CNN wouldn't have it immediately. Actually, I'll look on Twitter. Twitter is typically where you'd see it first. Hold on. My Ukraine Twitter feed will have it. Yeah. Nope. Nothing yet, unless somebody sees it elsewhere. I'm not seeing it. A P-pad would work if she knew to go on a P-pad, but she doesn't. So she used to know how to use a litter box and then got picky. Then she would always want me to take her out unless she was my dog, unless it was raining out. Then she'd use the litter box. But if it wasn't raining out, she'd wake me up and go, take me outside. There is nothing, Marion, saying that that Biden has made a decision. Not yet. Not yet. So, okay. All right. Nothing there. Nothing there yet. Yeah. So, well, that's a good question, actually, too, Wilson. It's not clear why it would take months. That's a great question. Wilson just asked, why would it take months for the dog to for the dog? I'm listening to her like, hold on. She's going to drive me crazy. Dog, what are you doing now? Oh, okay. Oh, good. Okay. I thought she was horrible. And then another one was locked. So glad you're okay now. Oh, yeah. Keep that shut for a little bit because I don't know. So I'm live in here because they've got the other room. All right. Feel free to do your thing. Sorry, my nephew's home. But yeah, the painters were inside, so I was not allowed to go in there. Anyway, thank you, Heidi, for subscribing. Yeah, no, I thought the dog was greeting the nephew. I thought she was going into the other room, into the room that's been painted. I was like, don't. But hopefully we can go in there after this is over. He's poised to. Yeah, that was an article. That article came out yesterday. Or I should say Politico said the same thing yesterday. Biden was poised to allow Ukraine to use their weapons to fire in Russia. But that's a really good question, because or long range in Russia. As Wilson just said, they've already got a lot of American weapons. So why would it take months to implement? Right? Maybe to get more of the weapons. Thank you, Heidi, for subscribing. But it doesn't quite make sense. Right? They could still, like, for example, they've got the British and French cruise missiles. America's been like stopping the Brits from allowing them to use those. Wouldn't they be able to use those? You know? Thank you, Kathy, for the hearts. Tennessee as well. Deep. What else, guys? How could Russia respond? What are they going to do? Bomb Ukraine? I don't think there's anything, Matt, that Russia can do, really. I mean, that's sort of the issue. What are they going to do? You know, they keep threatening, but there's kind of a so what, really. Thank you, Timothy. They can nuke us, you know. UK apparently said yes today. I hope that's true. If that's true, it means the Americans stopped objecting to it, which maybe that'll be the first step. Maybe our first step will be having Britain do it first. I don't know. Yeah, Biden meeting with Germans tomorrow. Biden's also meeting with the Brits tomorrow. He's meeting with the Germans too. That's interesting, because the British Prime Minister, I believe, is in Washington tomorrow. Do I think who was bluffing when they said Russia and NATO will go to war with each other, Kiara? Who said that? If it was the Russians, it's a total bluff. Thank you, Pam Pam. If it's Biden, he's being afraid of Putin. But yeah, well, I mean, Russia's already been doing some chemical stuff in Ukraine, but one also hopes that we told them you use chemical weapons and you're in trouble. You know, I mean, that's the problem is there isn't much Russia could do that they're not already doing. And if they aren't already doing it, there's a reason they're not already doing it. Russia isn't not using chemical weapons because they want to be nice. Right? They're not using nuclear weapons because they're trying to be nice. They believe they can't do it. They can't get away with doing it. Well, they're using some chemicals in a sense. right, with phosphorus and stuff. But that's more what's going on. That's what I said, exactly, blue sky, the phosphorus. That's exactly, the Prime Minister and the Foreign Secretary in America tomorrow. That's what I heard, right? The Brits are in the US tomorrow. I did not see about the Germans, which makes me think they're going to announce something tomorrow. That's my guess. They're sort of leaking it to the press now to get it out there. Well, that's the question, is whether the Ukrainians even have any kind of chemical weapons to use back. I don't know. Maybe they do. I don't know. But yeah, the Russians are always threatening. It's stupid. Biden. Oh, I did say it was cute. Yeah, there was a cute video today of Biden Biden trading hats with a MAGA voter at an event. It was very funny because the guy, he goes, Biden says, like, oh, I like your hat, because it said MAGA on it. And he says to Biden, like, maybe Biden said, do you want mine or whatever? He goes, will you sign it? And Biden says, sure, I'll sign it. And it's a MAGA guy, but like a blue collar MAGA guy. And the MAGA guy goes, do you remember your name? And he goes, nah, I don't remember my name. I'm old. He goes, I'm an old guy. I mean, totally playing along with the guy. And the guy starts laughing. The guy pulls his hat off and says, like, well, I don't know what he said about himself. And Biden goes, yeah, I grew up in Pennsylvania. We got guys like you out there too. Basically like being a jokester. And he ends up signing the hat for the guy. Biden said he was going to trade the hat. He goes, I'll trade you hats. So he gave the guy his Biden hat. The guy put it on. Biden took the MAGA hat. The guy goes, wear it. And Biden goes, yeah, I'm not that dumb. And finally goes, why not? So Biden puts the MAGA hat on. It was really funny. It really was a great exchange, though, because it was also funny because it was, Biden talking to a MAGA voter, which, like, and rather than having it be a nasty exchange, it was really funny and nice. It was really neat. Yeah. The video's out there somewhere. You'll find it. It's about a minute and a half. It's really cute. Anyway. Beep-a-deep. All right, guys, I may close off soon because we've been doing this for an hour and 15. Remember, Saturday, we've got our regular show we do Saturday mornings for the paid subscribers. So that's 10:30 Central Time, 11:30 Eastern Time on Saturday morning. So join us, anybody who's a paid subscriber or paid member. 6EVO, what do you think Russia's response will be to the attack? Not much. I mean, Russia will bomb Ukrainian cities. They're going to do what they always do. Again, anything that Russia could do, they're already doing. They're not using nukes for a reason because they know they're going to be in real trouble if they use nukes. There's just, I don't think much more they could. Now, they may try to shoot even more missiles or something, I don't know, at Ukraine, but it's something they would have done anyway. I'm just not convinced that there's anything Russia can do to respond. They also claimed they were going to arm our enemies in the Middle East. Oh, you mean like Hamas and Iran, who you're already arming? The Syrian government, who you're already helping? Really? Like, okay. I mean, it just doesn't make sense, like what more they could do. Are they doing, I didn't see, Rich, are the Russians doing anything else with the undersea cables in Europe? I didn't see. Was there more coming with that, or did more happen? I think these are the ones off of Ireland, I think, but I didn't see that anything else happened. Will Moscow get hit if it gets approved? No, they won't let them hit Moscow. Also, the weapons can't go that far. The American weapons, I think the ATACMS, we say, can go like 200 miles or 300 kilometers. Moscow's farther than that. I forget how far. Is it 500? Although from the Ukrainian, I'd have to look at a map. From the Ukrainian border, I don't think it's close enough. But we would also tell them, if it was close enough, we would tell them you can't hit Moscow. I guarantee you. That would be part of the deal. So, here's the thing. They're hitting, okay, the Ukrainians appear to be hitting, because Marion's asking, how do they hit Murmansk? The Ukrainians appear to be hitting places in Russia like 1,000 miles, 1,500 kilometers away. A, they're using drones for all of this, I believe. B, just because they used a drone doesn't mean the drone took off in Ukraine. They could have snuck the drone across the border. There could be Ukrainian hit squads across Russia right now. They could be working with the Russian underground as well. We know they're like the Russian troops that are fighting against the Russians, right, themselves. They could have given them drones, right? YouTube died. Uh-oh. YouTube, are you not there anymore? YouTube. I could try to refresh. Oh, it's still there. YouTube. Okay, Mrs. Toad, you're a liar. YouTube's still there. It's fine. Yep. Your YouTube, something must have happened on your end if you were on YouTube. But yeah, so I've wondered whether it's Ukrainian sort of hit squads smuggling the drones in, and then you just have to get within a mile or 2 or 3 of the site, right? Like your drone doesn't have to go 1,000 miles; it just needs to go a couple hundred feet, depending where you are, right? So I just wonder whether that's what might be going on with some of these attacks deep within Russia. Pretty wild if their drones are going that far. Maybe they are. Yeah, exactly, Michael. Ukraine is sneaky squirrel. That's what I mean. I mean, they're very sneaky and they're very good at this, but who knows how they're doing it. I mean, it's probably a good thing we don't know how they're doing it, to be honest, because we don't want the Russians to know. But it's pretty good. Yeah. All right, guys, it's almost 20 after. I'm going to call it quits. Again, give my voice a chance to recover. Anyway, thank you for joining us, guys. Thank you for the gifts. Thank you, mods. Make sure I'll be back tomorrow at 5 o'clock Chicago time, 6 o'clock Eastern time, US. Same time as always. And then remember, Saturday morning for the paid subscribers, paid members, we will be, those of you with green names on YouTube and SNN next to your name on TikTok, you can join us for our Saturday morning show as well. Thank you, Aviation, Mary, Mrs. Toad, and Kanji person. Thank you for that. All right, guys, I'm going to call it quits. Find a little dinner, and we'll talk again. All right. Thanks, everybody. Have a good night. All right, goodbye, TikTok or YouTube. Boom, and TikTok.